The Empire's day began like any other: quiet stars, silent patrols, and perfect order across the Varnex sector. But at exactly 4:12 galactic time, everything changed. A strange ship broke through the outer barrier of forbidden space. It didn't match any known alien signature. The scanners kept blinking in red. Then, the message appeared across every monitor in Command Station Zarn: unidentified human warship detected. Commander Ilrex stood still, unable to speak. His scales turned a paler shade of blue, a sign of deep fear in his species. "That's impossible," he whispered. "Humans were destroyed 200 years ago." The room filled with tense silence. Officers stared at the hologram projection of the ship. Its shape was like a dagger in space. Its engines pulsed with strange energy. It wasn't just a ghost from the past, it looked more advanced than anything the Empire had ever seen. High Chancellor Krell was contacted immediately. Within minutes, the top level of the Varnex Empire met in the war chamber. "Is this some kind of trick?" Krell asked, his voice sharp. "Scan again." "We did. 3 times, said Officer Nevi. "Same result. Human materials, human structure, human power core, but it has no crew. At least none we can detect. An unmanned human warship." Krell looked around. "Then who's controlling it?" The real panic started when the ship didn't respond to any messages. Not to peaceful calls, not to warnings, not to threats. It just hovered silently in the dark sector, near the edge of the Empire's most protected region. The warship hadn't attacked. But it hadn't left either. It was just watching. A young technician made a mistake by trying to scan its energy source more deeply. As soon as he did, the warship's lights turned red. Just for a second. That was all. One flash. Then everything in the sector went dark. All stations, ships, satellites blacked out. Power returned after 3 minutes. But the warship was now closer, miles closer. It hadn't moved on radar. But somehow, it had. "This is a warning," Krell said, trying to remain calm. "The humans are not extinct. And they are not alone." Down on the Empire's outer colony, a teenage alien girl named Lyra was watching the sky. Her father worked in defense. She had heard whispers. Something strange had come. Something that scared the most powerful beings she knew. That night, she saw something glimmer far above the clouds. Meanwhile, deep inside the strange warship, something finally moved. Not a being. Not a life form. A blinking screen. And on it, 4 words: "Mission, reclaim the past." The ship's engines hummed louder. It had waited long enough. The Empire had taken something centuries ago. Something they thought would never return. But humans had a different plan. They always did. The next day, fear spread across the Varnex Empire like wildfire. Every news channel, every city square, every spaceport was buzzing with one question: why had a human warship entered forbidden space? People didn't understand it. Some were angry. Others were terrified. But no one could ignore it. High Chancellor Krell had ordered all forces to stay alert, but not to engage. "Do not provoke it," he warned. "We don't know what it's capable of." In the war chamber, officers examined the ship's design over and over again. "This is not an old model," said Commander Ilrex. "It's far more advanced than the last known human ship." "But the humans lost the war centuries ago," another officer said. "They were wiped out. Their planet destroyed." Ilrex stared at the screen. "Then where did this come from?" They didn't know the answer yet. But deep inside the warship, hidden behind layers of uncrackable steel and strange energy fields, a system was waking up. A voice, calm, human, and female, spoke to no one. Phase 2, initializing. The ship wasn't empty after all. Not completely. On the outer colony of Draxil 4, Lyra was still watching the skies. She was 17 years old, curious, and more intelligent than most adults around her. Her father, Colonel Derricks, had always told her stories about the Great Human War. He hated humans. Said they were monsters in skin, clever with machines, and dangerous with ideas. But Lyra didn't believe in hate. She believed in questions. And now, one big question filled her mind: why has a human ship returned now? At night, she hacked into her father's terminal. Carefully, quietly. She wasn't trying to do damage just to look. And what she found made her skin grow cold. A report, dated 196 Earth years ago, had been buried under top secret, human acquisition. It showed something strange. Not just war. Not just battles. It showed a child. A small human child, taken from Earth before it was destroyed. Genetic source code A01, preserved. Lyra blinked. She didn't understand all the words, but she understood enough. The Empire had taken a human child, and kept it? She leaned back from the screen, breathing fast. Is that child still alive? Meanwhile, back in forbidden space, the warship began to move. Slowly, calmly, it turned its nose toward Varnex Prime, the heart of the Empire. Alarms rang everywhere. It's heading toward us, shouted one technician. Still no response from the ship, asked Chancellor Krell. No, said Ilrex. But, the signal changed. It's not just watching now. Then it's preparing to strike, Krell whispered. They deployed over 400 defense ships. Missiles were locked. Drones swarmed around the ship's path. But none of them fired. They waited. Trembling. Hoping they wouldn't be needed. The human warship didn't attack. It simply passed through them, unharmed. Untouched. As if they weren't even there. Suddenly, across every screen, a message appeared. Written in perfect Varnex script. Return what was stolen. That message shook the council to its core. Krell called for emergency containment. Search the vaults, he demanded. I want a list of every human item ever taken. Every sample. Every document. Now. But deep down, he already knew. He knew exactly what they had taken and why the humans had returned. 2 centuries ago, during the final battle, the Empire had discovered a child inside an escape pod. Barely 5 years old. The child wasn't just human. He had been modified. Enhanced. Not by machines, but by something older. Earth science mixed with ancient alien DNA. They had kept him in stasis. Studied him. Fed him. Even trained him. But they never saw him as a person, just a key. A weapon. A secret to unlock future power. The project was called Project Rebirth. And now, the key had come looking for its past. On the warship, inside the sealed chamber, a boy began to wake. His body had not aged. He looked 13 now, though nearly 200 years had passed. His name was Jace. He sat up, blinking at the soft lights and humming walls. The ship whispered to him. It had raised him. It had taught him. And now, it had brought him home. Are they still afraid? Jace asked the ship. Yes, the voice replied. They always were. Good, Jace said. They should be. But Jace didn't want revenge. Not truly. He didn't want war. He wanted the truth. Why had the Empire killed his people? Why had they taken him and used him? And most of all, were there others like him out there? Lyra was thinking the same thing. She stared at the report, then opened a secret comm link she'd never used before. To the human warship. I don't know if you can hear me. But I believe you're not here to kill us. I want to help. My name is Lyra. I think I know about the one you're looking for. There was no reply. But the warship stopped. It hovered in space for hours. No movement. No messages. Then, finally, it turned. Not toward Varnex Prime. Not toward the defense fleet. But toward Draxil 4. Toward Lyra. Colonel Derricks was furious. Do you have any idea what you've done? He shouted at his daughter. Lyra stood firm. He's not a monster. He's a child. And we stole his life. Derricks froze. His anger faded. You read the reports. I read enough, Lyra said. He was just a boy. And we locked him away. There's a reason for that, Derricks muttered. He's not like the others. He's dangerous. Because you made him that way. Outside the colony, a strange wind began to blow. The air shimmered with static. Lights flickered. The warship had entered the planet's orbit. Every screen lit up with the same message again. One must choose. The truth, or war. The Empire gave its order, destroy the ship. But Lyra made her move first. She escaped her home, ran through the forest near the colony, and reached the old communication tower. She opened the signal again. Jace. If you're out there, don't fire. Don't hurt them. Let me show you the truth. Inside the warship, Jace heard her voice. Soft. Clear. Real. He closed his eyes. He remembered her. A dream from long ago. A face from before the fire. The sky above Draxil 4 turned strange as the warship hovered silently above the colony. People ran into shelters, alarms echoed through the streets, and soldiers stood ready with trembling hands. No one had seen anything like it, an ancient human vessel glowing with unknown energy, yet not firing a single shot. Inside the tower, Lyra watched it all from a broken window. Her message had reached Jace. She didn't know how, but she felt it. The warship hadn't attacked. Not yet. She activated the comm link again and whispered, Jace. I don't want to fight you. I want to understand you. In the sky above, the warship shifted slightly, like it had heard her. Then a soft beam of white light shone down near the edge of the forest. It wasn't a weapon. It was a landing corridor. Jace was coming down. Deep within the ship, Jace stood alone in the docking bay, facing the metal door that had not opened in nearly 200 years. The last time he had touched real soil, he was a child screaming for his mother, pulled from an escape pod by alien claws. Now, he was calm. He had trained for this. He stepped into the light. His boots touched Draxil 4's surface for the first time. Wind brushed against his face. He looked no older than a teenager, but his eyes carried centuries of silence. His skin was pale, his movements smooth, and a strange glow followed his every step. He walked toward the colony, unarmed. Behind him, the warship waited like a silent guardian in the clouds. From a hidden ridge, Lyra watched him come closer. Her heart pounded. This was the boy from the reports, the one the Empire had hidden, the one who shouldn't exist. And now, he was here, not to destroy, but to find something. But not everyone wanted peace. Colonel Derricks had sent out a distress signal. The human weapon has landed, he told the Varnex command. Permission to eliminate. The reply came cold and fast. Do not wait. Terminate on sight. Derricks took a squad of 10 and headed into the forest, where Jace's last known location had been marked. Lyra realized what was happening and ran. She didn't care if they locked her up later. She had seen something in Jace's eyes, pain, not hate. She reached the old road just in time to see Jace step out into a clearing, facing the soldiers without flinching. They pointed their rifles at him, but he didn't raise his hands. He just said one word, why? The men hesitated. There was something unnatural about his voice, not threatening, just powerful. A ripple of energy spread through the clearing, not an attack, but something else, like a memory. The soldiers gasped as flashes filled their minds, images of war, burning earth, ships falling from the sky, and a child alone in darkness. Derek stumbled back, dropping his weapon. "Stop!" Lyra shouted, running between them. "He's not here to fight." But it was too late. One soldier panicked and fired. The blast shot through the trees and struck Jace in the chest. He fell hard, his body hitting the ground with a dull thud. Lyra screamed and ran to him, placing her hands on his chest. "No, no, please," she cried. But Jace opened his eyes. He wasn't bleeding. The wound was there, but something inside him was glowing, healing. Slowly, he stood up, silent, his body humming with energy. The soldier who fired dropped his gun and stepped back, afraid. But Jace didn't attack. He simply looked at Lyra and whispered, "They lied to me." Above them, the warship's lights pulsed red. It had felt the pain. It had been built to protect him. A low hum grew louder in the sky. The Empire's fleet was arriving. Dozens of ships now hovered above Draxil 4. A warning echoed across every speaker: the human subject must be contained. This is your final order. Jace looked up at the sky, then back at Lyra. "They want to lock me away again," he said. "I won't let them." She held his hand. "Then don't run alone this time. Let me stand with you." The two of them fled into the mountains, while drones chased from above. Jace used his energy to block scanners, his presence bending the environment around them. "What are you?" Lyra asked during one breathless stop. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "Part of me is human. Part of me was made by something else." That night, he showed her a hidden marking on his arm, symbols not of Earth, but something older. "Alien. My DNA was changed before Earth fell," he said. "They wanted to make a new kind of being. One who could survive anywhere. Even in silence." Meanwhile, on Varnex Prime, Chancellor Krell sat in silence, watching the warship still frame on his screen. "We created this," he said bitterly. "We took a child and turned him into a ghost." Commander Ilrex frowned. "Should we still try to capture him?" "No," Krell said slowly. "Capture will only bring war. But if we kill him, we may never survive what follows." In a secret chamber, Krell opened a vault that hadn't been touched in decades. Inside was a black box, one that pulsed when Jace was near. "Project Rebirth wasn't a failure," Krell whispered. "It was a warning." Back on Draxil 4, Lyra and Jace discovered an old ruin deep in the cliffs, a forgotten research outpost. Inside, they found dusty records and stasis pods. Jace approached one and paused. "They were keeping others," he said. The pod still held something, a girl, human like him, sleeping in ice. Lyra read the label. "Subject B02. Jace placed his hand on the glass. "I'm not the only one." He turned to Lyra, his voice firm. "We're going back to the ship. I need to wake them up. The Empire is afraid of what we are, but they haven't even seen the truth." Lyra nodded. "I'll go with you." Together, they stepped into the beam once more, vanishing into the sky as the warship accepted them. From above, the Empire's fleet watched, but didn't dare fire. The ship had already survived their strongest weapons once. Now, they waited to see what the next move would be. Inside the warship, Jace stood before a chamber lined with stasis pods. "They thought they buried us," he said. "But we were seeds." Then, for the first time in 2 centuries, the ship changed course, turning toward Varnex Prime. Not for revenge. Not yet. But for answers. And maybe something more. The human warship moved silently through space, but its presence sent shockwaves across the Empire. Inside, Jace stood with Lyra beside the stasis pods. The girl inside pod B02 looked peaceful, untouched by time. Jace didn't remember her, but something inside him felt a connection like they were from the same dream. "She's like me," he whispered. "They didn't just take one of us." Lyra walked between the other pods, wiping the dust from the glass. One had a broken seal. Another was completely empty. "Some didn't survive," she said softly. "But some might still be out there." Jace turned toward the control panel. His hand hovered over the release switch. "If I wake her," he said, "the Empire will know we're not alone." Lyra placed her hand over his. "Let them know. It's time they saw the truth." The chamber hissed as it released pressure. Cold mist filled the air. The girl's pod slowly opened, revealing pale skin, soft breath, and eyes that opened with confusion and light. She looked at Jace, blinking, then spoke in a tired voice. "Is it over?" Jace nodded, but his heart felt heavy. "No. It's just beginning." Her name was Sira. She had been 7 when the pod was sealed. Now she looked 15. She didn't remember much, only voices, darkness, and a warm feeling like home had vanished. The ship scanned her health, confirmed her systems were stable, and then dimmed the chamber lights as she adjusted to the present. Lyra stepped forward, kind and calm, offering her water and words. "You're safe now," she said. But Sira shook her head. "No one is safe if the Empire still breathes." Her words were sharper than expected. There was fire behind her quiet voice. Jace realized it quickly. Sira remembered more than she let on. The Empire hadn't just put her to sleep. They had tested her. Hurt her. Changed her. She bore scars on her mind that time couldn't erase. Outside, the Empire's ships followed the warship at a distance, but none dared to attack. The ship's silence was a message in itself. Krell ordered a transmission. "Jace," the Chancellor said through the open line, "you don't have to run. We can talk." But Jace didn't answer. He simply replayed the old audio logs from the vault recordings of the Empire discussing the children like test animals. "Subject A01 is responding well. If stable, we proceed to fusion testing. B02 may require memory suppression. They're not human anymore. They belong to us." Lyra covered her mouth in horror. "They used you, like tools." Jace closed the log. "And now they want peace." He looked up at the stars ahead. "They want control. Not peace." Sira stepped beside him. "Then let's remind them who we are." Her hand lit up with faint golden energy, raw power awakened by the experiments. Jace reached for the ship's core and summoned the interface. "It's time we make a choice. Fight, or disappear again." But Lyra stepped between them. "What if there's another way?" she asked. "What if we show the people the truth before the Empire twists the story again?" Jace paused. "How?" "The Empire is hiding everything," she explained. "But their signal towers stretch across the stars. If we hack into them, we can send the recordings. Show the universe what they did to you. Let them see the stolen children. Let them decide who the enemy really is." It was dangerous. If they were caught while broadcasting, they'd be destroyed before finishing the upload. But the idea was powerful and Jace saw hope in it. "Okay," he said. "Let's show them." The warship changed course again, diving toward an old signal station floating between moons, a forgotten place once used during the human wars. It still held a communication core that reached over 30 systems. The warship docked in silence. Jace, Sira, and Lyra stepped onto the cold floor of the abandoned tower. Dust covered the walls. Lights flickered. But the power still pulsed. "This will work," Lyra said, moving quickly to the terminal. Jace uploaded the logs, the footage of the pods, the voice files, and more. Then he connected his own memory, years of silence, dreams, and pain stored inside him. "Sending it now," Lyra said. She pressed a button. At first, nothing happened. Then every major screen in the Empire lit up: news feeds, billboards, ship monitors, even classroom boards. The images appeared. Jace as a child, taken and tested. Syrah crying in a cold room. Files showing how many human children were locked away. Krell watching the broadcast in horror. "Shut it down," he yelled. But it was too late. The signal spread through every system, impossible to erase. The people of the Empire were now seeing a truth buried for generations. Riots broke out in cities. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Some cried. Others panicked. But no one stayed silent. The signal reached Draxil 4, where Derek stood frozen, watching the face of a boy he tried to kill. Lyra's voice came through too. "We are not enemies. We are the forgotten. The stolen. We only want the truth." And then static. The signal was cut. Imperial forces had found them. Ships surrounded the station. "They'll fire," Jace said. "We need to move." But Lyra turned to him. "We did what we came to do." The warship powered up, surrounding the station with its protective shield. Lasers bounced off the outer shell like sparks. Jace guided them back to the ship, but not before Syrah looked at the stars and whispered, "They will fear us more now." Jace shook his head. "Not if we show them who we really are." Back on Varnex Prime, Chancellor Krell faced his council. Some called for war. Others called for surrender. But Krell said nothing. He only watched the final moment of the broadcast: Jace standing with Lyra, holding out his hand instead of a weapon. The Chancellor leaned forward. "We are no longer hunting a boy," he said. "We are facing an idea. And ideas cannot be killed." Meanwhile, inside the ship, Jace sat with Lyra and Syrah. None of them spoke. They had told the truth. But the galaxy was still holding its breath. Jace looked out at the stars and said softly, "If my people still live, they'll hear us now." And somewhere, far across space, a small light flickered in the dark. A hidden colony. A human signal. And it had just turned on. A single pulse of light blinked in the dark corner of the galaxy. It was weak, hidden, and nearly buried in static, but the warship picked it up instantly. Jace sat still as the signal repeated itself: 3 short bursts, 2 long, then silence. That pattern was unmistakable. It was Earth code. A signal known only to humans. He stood up slowly, eyes wide, his breath catching in his throat. "That's not from the Empire," he whispered. "That's someone like me." Lyra leaned in. "Are you sure it's not a trick?" Jace shook his head. "It's a call. A real one. Someone out there just heard our message and answered." He moved quickly to the controls and projected the signal path. It came from a dead Sector 1 that was marked empty and lifeless by the Empire. But maybe that was the point. Maybe someone had survived all along, hiding just like Jace had. Syrah stepped forward and stared at the signal. Her face was calm, but her eyes were glassy. "If someone's still out there," she said quietly, "why didn't they come for us before?" Jace looked at her and didn't answer right away. He knew what she was really asking. Were there others like them? Or had they all been erased, lost in the silence of space? "Maybe they couldn't," he said at last. "Maybe they didn't even know we were alive. But they do now." The warship changed course, setting a path toward the signal. The Empire, still shaken by the broadcast, hadn't moved yet. Their fleet waited near Varnex Prime, unsure whether to fight or to listen. For the first time in history, the galaxy was looking inward instead of outward. Debates flooded the media. Half the Empire wanted peace. The other half wanted revenge. High Chancellor Krell watched in silence as his people argued. He remembered the boy on the screen, the way he had stood tall with no hate in his eyes. Jace hadn't asked for destruction. He'd asked for truth. And Krell, for all his power, had no answer. Alone in his chamber, he replayed the classified files. He saw Jace as a child, confused, screaming, taken from his pod and placed into isolation. He remembered the order he had signed. Keep him under observation. Do not let him dream. Now that dream was awake, and it was moving toward a truth Krell no longer controlled. The journey to the hidden signal took several days. During that time, Jace sat in the central chamber, talking to Syrah and Lyra. Syrah had begun remembering more snippets of experiments, faces of scientists, and other children crying in faraway rooms. They kept us separate, she said. They didn't want us to bond. They knew if we ever found each other, we'd be stronger. Lyra listened quietly. She had grown up believing the Empire was flawless. Now, she saw the cracks in its walls. If others are out there, she asked, what happens when they all remember who they are? Jace looked at her and spoke the words slowly. Then the Empire will finally meet the ones it buried. As they neared the signal, the warship slowed. A dark planet came into view, rocky, covered in storms, and barely visible against the stars. There were no cities. No satellites. But the signal was strong. It pulsed from a mountain deep in the northern hemisphere. Jace, Syrah, and Lyra prepared to land. The warship lowered its shields as it descended through the storm clouds. Thunder cracked above them. Lightning lit the sky like a warning. The landing was rough, but controlled. The ground was solid. Cold winds rushed through the broken valleys. The team stepped out together. The ship remained behind, scanning the area, ready to defend them. They followed the signal's path across the rocks and into a cave carved into the mountain itself. The signal grew louder, clearer. Then, without warning, it stopped. The cave was dark. Silent. But something deep inside called to Jace. He led the way with a soft glow of energy in his hand. Lyra followed closely, with Syrah watching their backs. The walls were lined with old symbols, not Varnex, not human, but something older. Jace touched one of the symbols, and a deep rumble echoed through the tunnel. A door opened. Behind it was a chamber filled with light. And people. Real, living humans. They stood in silence, eyes wide, faces worn from years of hiding. There were children, adults, and elders, some with scars, some with implants, but all very much alive. One woman stepped forward. Her hair was gray, her eyes bright with tears. "You're A01, she whispered. Jace nodded slowly. "You know who I am. I helped build your ship," she said. "Before the fall. Before the purge. We never thought you'd survive." Syrah stepped forward too, and several of the humans gasped. "B02, the woman said, trembling. "We lost you, they took you both." Lyra stood beside them, speechless. The survivors welcomed them into the chamber. The place was a hidden sanctuary, an ancient research center built before Earth was destroyed. A few scientists had escaped, carrying human DNA and technology with them. They had raised a small community in silence, fearing the day the Empire would find them. "We watched from afar," one man explained. "But we couldn't risk speaking. Not until now. When your signal came through, we knew it was time." They showed Jace and Syrah the old archives footage of Earth before the war, recordings of families, hopes, and blue skies. Jace watched every second with silent tears. It was the first time he had seen his mother's face. Her voice said, "You're strong, my son. You'll make it through anything." But the peace didn't last long. Back in the stars above, Empire scouts had followed the warship's trail. They detected energy readings on the dead planet. A message was sent to Varnex Prime, "We found them." Chancellor Krell read the message and closed his eyes. "Do not engage," he ordered. But his command was ignored. A young general, eager to prove himself, sent a strike squad to the planet. "Capture the humans," he said. "Bring A-01 alive." The sky above the mountain burned with fire as shuttles descended. Explosions shook the ground. The sanctuary lit up with red alerts. "They've found us," someone shouted. Jace turned to Syrah. "Get the children underground." He looked at Lyra. "We hold them off here." She nodded. Together, they ran to the upper edge of the cave. Imperial soldiers stormed in, weapons ready. But this time, Jace didn't wait. He raised his hands and sent a pulse through the air, not to kill, but to push. Soldiers flew backward, stunned but alive. "I don't want to hurt you," Jace shouted. "But I will not be taken again." More troops poured in. Blasters fired. Rocks exploded. Syrah joined the fight, her hands glowing with fire. Lyra hacked the ceiling doors to collapse and slow their entry. The sanctuary fought back, not with weapons, but with will. And above it all, the warship rose from behind the mountain, shields shining like a second sun. It fired warning blasts into the sky, destroying the enemy shuttles one by one. The Empire retreated for now. As night fell, the survivors gathered again. The sanctuary had held. Barely. Jace stood among them, exhausted but awake. "They won't stop," he said. "Now they know where we are." The gray-haired woman stepped forward. "Then we must stop hiding." She handed him a small device shaped like a star. "It's the beacon," she said. "The last message from Earth. If you activate it, every surviving human in the galaxy will hear it." Jace looked down at the beacon in his hand. It pulsed with soft blue light. And he knew what he had to do next. Jace stood in the quiet mountain sanctuary, the beacon glowing softly in his hand. The survivors surrounded him, their faces filled with hope and fear at the same time. Lyra watched from his side, while Syrah sat with the children, softly talking to them, calming them after the attack. No one said a word as the blue light pulsed from the star-shaped device. Jace had seen many things in the past few days, truths that broke him, strength he didn't know he had, and now, a chance to call others like him. If any humans still existed beyond the stars, this beacon would reach them. But activating it came with danger. It would expose everything. The Empire would hear it too. "If I send this," Jace whispered, "there's no turning back." Lyra placed her hand on his arm. "Then don't turn back. Move forward." He nodded once, then walked to the center of the chamber where the old core still glowed with power. He placed the beacon gently on the platform. It floated upward, scanning his face. Then it asked one question in an old Earth voice. "Do you wish to activate the final signal?" Jace didn't hesitate. "Yes." The moment he spoke, the entire mountain shook, not from attack, but from light. The beacon burst open, sending a wide wave of energy through space. It passed through every signal path, bouncing from asteroid fields to dead satellites, across abandoned Earth stations, and through broken colonies. It reached corners of the galaxy the Empire didn't even know existed. Across hundreds of stars, a voice rang out, "To all surviving children of Earth, this is Jace. They tried to erase us. They locked us away. But we're still here. If you are to come home." The message repeated again and again in every human frequency known. Then, silence. For a moment, nothing happened. But then, the answers began. Small signals blinked across star charts. One came from a mining colony near a black hole. Another from a deep ice station. Then another from a hidden lab on a forgotten moon. More and more signals appeared, each one carrying a single message: "We hear you. Jace stared at the screen, his throat tight. "They're alive," he whispered. "They're actually alive." Syrah clutched her hands together, trying not to cry. "We're not alone anymore." But not everyone welcomed the signal. High Chancellor Krell stood at the heart of the Varnex Empire, watching the beacon's message spread across star systems. His advisors shouted in panic, arguing over how to stop it, but he didn't speak. He knew what this meant. The humans weren't just survivors. They were awakening. And now, the Empire would never be the same. One general demanded full-scale attack. Another suggested peace. But Krell silenced them all with a single word. "Prepare." "Prepare for what?" someone asked. Krell looked into the stars. "For the moment when we are no longer in control." In the sanctuary, the humans gathered in celebration. For the first time in generations, they sang Earth songs, lit small fires, and told stories of a planet none of them had ever seen but still carried in their hearts. Jace walked among them, smiling for the first time since leaving the warship. He felt like he belonged. But deep inside, he knew it wouldn't last. The Empire would not stay silent. Their silence was always the sign before the storm. That night, Lyra found Jace sitting on a cliff, looking up at the stars. "You did something impossible," she said. "You gave them hope." Jace nodded. "Now I have to protect it?" Down in the cave, Syrah discovered something else. A sealed archive marked with Earth's last day recordings of the final attacks, the loss of the oceans, the fall of the cities. But there was also a map. It showed the location of something called the Core Seed, a deep space object believed to carry the final memory of Earth's sky, soil, and DNA. "It was our last backup," one old scientist explained. "If the planet ever died, we sent the seed into space, hoping someone would rebuild." Syrah showed it to Jace. "If we find this, we can bring Earth back." The idea was wild. Impossible. Beautiful. "We could make a home again," Lyra whispered. But time was running out. The Empire had sent a hunter. Not a fleet. Not a drone. But one ship. Silent. Deadly. Powered by stolen human tech. Its pilot was called Varos, a cold, enhanced being created for one purpose, to bring Jace back alive or destroy him if he refused. Varos had no fear, no emotion, and no doubt. He tracked the beacon signal to the planet, and now he was coming. The warship detected him first. A ripple in space. An unnatural shadow. Jace felt it in his chest. "He's here," he said. "Someone powerful." The ship showed the enemy's approach. One vessel. But the energy readings were off the scale. "We don't have time," Jace said. "We need to leave now." The humans scrambled to board the warship. Syrah protected the children. Lyra helped the elders. Jace stayed behind for one last moment, watching the stars where the signals had come from. "I'll come for you," he whispered. "All of you." The enemy ship arrived, cutting through the clouds like a blade. It fired before landing. The mountain shook. The sanctuary exploded behind them. Jace ran. The warship opened its doors. Lyra screamed his name. He jumped aboard as the enemy landed with a roar. Varro stepped out, tall, armored, and burning with strange blue fire. He watched the warship rise but didn't chase. Not yet. He placed his hand on the mountain's ashes. "They remember," he said. "So now, I must make them forget again." As the human warship escaped the planet, Jace stood in the main chamber, his eyes dark with fear and fire. "That wasn't a warning," he said. "That was a hunter." The others looked at him. "What do we do now?" Lyra asked. Jace looked at the beacon once more and answered. "We go find the core seed, and we build the world they tried to erase." The stars looked peaceful, but Jace knew better. As the human warship moved through the galaxy's dead zones, its engines left behind faint pulses just enough to stay hidden from normal sensors, but not enough to stop a determined tracker. Inside the ship, everyone was quiet. The children were asleep in small resting pods, while the elders gathered in the medical bay. Cyril was organizing food rations and scanning for signals. Lyra sat in the observation deck, watching the stars drift by. Jace stood alone in the control chamber. He hadn't slept in 2 days. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the glowing blue fire that surrounded Varos. That hunter wasn't just another soldier. He was something worse, something born from Earth's past, twisted by the Empire, and sent back to destroy what little was left of humanity. He won't stop, Jace whispered to himself. He doesn't know how. The warship's AI, a calm female voice called Lyra, interrupted his thoughts. We are approaching the coordinates from the seed map, she said. Estimated time, 6 hours. Jace nodded, his hand still hovering near the control panel. The core seed wasn't just another piece of technology. It was a symbol. A small device sent into deep space during Earth's final days, carrying the planet's DNA, its air samples, soil data, and the genetic blueprints of every tree, bird, and mammal that once lived. It was Earth's heart, floating alone in the dark for centuries. If they could find it, they could start over. But Jace also knew it wouldn't be easy. As they moved closer to the seed's last known location, Lyra warned of strange signals. There is interference, very old code, buried inside collapsed star fields. Someone hid it well. Jace scanned the code. It's human, he said softly. This is our encryption. But it's mixed with something else. Varnex tech. That meant one thing: the Empire had tried to erase the seed, but failed to find it. Now it was up to Jace and the others to reach it first. Suddenly, alarms began to blare. The ship shook slightly. Not from attack, but from gravity distortion. There's a wormhole, Syrah said as she ran into the chamber. It's artificial. That meant someone built it, someone who wanted the seed hidden forever. But there was no time to think. The ship was being pulled in. Jace shouted, "Brace for impact." They fell into darkness. It lasted only seconds. But when they emerged, they were somewhere else. A dead region of space. No stars. No light. Only the strange glow of a broken moon floating in pieces. And in the center, the seed. It didn't look like much, a sphere the size of a small ship, glowing green, with vines of light stretching out like roots. It hovered near a broken satellite, untouched for centuries. Lyra gasped. It's real. Jace activated the ship's scanning beam. Life code detected, Lyra confirmed. Organic data intact. All systems holding. But before they could celebrate, another voice filled the ship. A cold, low growl that echoed from every speaker. You should not have come. Everyone froze. Jace looked at the screen. A new ship had entered the zone, black as shadow, with no visible engines. It didn't fly, it floated, like death itself. And at the center stood Varos. He followed us, Syrah said. No, Jace whispered. He waited for us. Varos spoke again. The seed belongs to the Varnex. It holds forbidden codes. Your Earth's memory must stay erased. Jace stepped forward, turning on the ship's voice projection. You don't get to decide that. You're not even human anymore. I am more than human, Varos replied. I am what your kind should have become. No weakness, no fear, no history. Only purpose. Jace stared at the seed. Then you've forgotten the most important thing. What is that? Varos growled. Jace smiled faintly. That purpose without memory is slavery. Then, everything exploded into action. Varos opened fire. First bright beams of blue fire shot toward the seed. Jace ordered Lyra to block them. The warship moved with speed and grace, placing itself between Varos and the Seed. A battle began in the darkness, two ships moving like ghosts through dead space, dodging blasts and trying to outmaneuver each other. The humans scrambled to hold their positions. Lyra took control of weapons. Syrah coordinated defense. Jace stood in the center, his heart pounding. "Lyra, what's the Seed's status?" he shouted. "Activating," she said. "But it needs protection for 5 minutes." "That's all we need," he said. But they didn't have 5 minutes. Varos' ship fired a strange weapon, a gravity net that locked onto the warship's engines. It began pulling them backward. "We're losing power," Syrah shouted. Sparks flew. Panels broke. Lyra was thrown from her seat. Jace tried to help her up when he saw something on the screen. A third ship. It blinked into existence just outside the zone, a small craft, old, scarred, and barely holding together. But its signal was human. "This is Echo 7, came the voice. "We received your beacon. We're here to help." Jace blinked. "Who are you?" The voice replied, "Survivors. Like you. More are coming." Then, more signals appeared: 10, 20, 40 old Earth ships, scavenger vessels, ancient fighters. The beacon had worked. They had come. The small ships swarmed the enemy, distracting Varos, firing small bursts, just enough to weaken his grip on Jace's ship. "Now!" Jace shouted. "Protect the Seed." Lyra charged full power into the defense grid. Syrah rerouted all systems. Lyra locked onto Varos' weak spot, an old Varnex core hidden in his ship's base. She fired. The blast struck hard. Varos' ship lost its shield for just 1 second. That was all the Seed needed. It awakened. A shockwave of pure green light burst from the Seed, pushing every ship back. It didn't destroy, it healed. It wrapped around Jace's warship, around the Echo survivors, around even the moon's broken pieces. And in the center, a soft voice spoke. "Earth's memory is not forgotten." Varos screamed in rage. His systems began to fail. "No," he shouted. "This is forbidden." His ship broke apart, piece by piece. He ejected into space, floating, damaged but still alive. "I will return," he growled. Jace watched him drift. "And we'll be waiting." The Seed floated closer to Jace's ship. Lyra scanned it again. "It's fully active. Ready to begin rebuilding." Syrah looked at Jace. "So what now?" He stared at the green glow, feeling something in his chest, something like hope. "Now," he said, "we go find a place to plant it." The stars slowly came back into view. Everything felt quiet now, too quiet. After the Seed's energy wave spread across the dark zone, Jace's warship floated calmly near the broken moon. Around them, the ships of other survivors hovered in silence, unsure of what had just happened. The glow of the Seed had faded into a warm pulse, like a heartbeat in the middle of space. Lyra's voice returned, soft and steady. "All systems stable. No sign of Varos. The Seed is fully integrated. Awaiting your command." Jace leaned back against the control chair, completely exhausted but unable to rest. For the first time in a long time, they had something precious: hope. Lyra came into the chamber with a bruised cheek and tired eyes, but she smiled. "I can still feel it," she whispered. "The Seed, it's alive." Syrah followed close behind, holding a cracked screen filled with data. "We're detecting old Earth frequencies," she said. "Birdsong. Ocean waves. Tree sounds. All buried in the Seed's code." Jace took the screen in his hands. He closed his eyes and listened. The distant sound of wind moving through leaves, something he'd never heard before, but instantly recognized. That was Earth. But they couldn't rest long. A message came through. A warning. This is Varnek's command. Your vessel is in violation of Empire Code. Surrender the seed immediately or be destroyed. The Empire was coming. Fast. Hundreds of warships, stretching across the edge of the dead zone like a storm. They had tracked the energy wave. And now they were sending everything. Jace stared at the scanner. It was suicide to fight. Even with help from the survivor ships, they had no chance against that many. Cira whispered, "They'll burn us all." Jace felt the weight of it. Every life on board. Every child asleep below deck. Every survivor on every ship nearby. "Then we don't fight," he said. "We run." Lyra's voice trembled for the first time. "Where, Captain?" Jace turned to the seed. "To the past. Where it all started." Lyra understood. The seed wasn't just a blueprint. It was a memory core. It contained coordinates. Hidden deep within it was Earth. The real one. Long lost. Buried or destroyed, but maybe not. Maybe something survived. A secret sanctuary. A forgotten world. "Plot the jump," Jace ordered. "Use everything we've got." Outside, the survivor ships began to form a wall around them, small fighters, transports, even cargo vessels protecting the seed. Messages came in fast. "We'll buy you time. Take the seed. Finish what we couldn't. If Earth lives again, so do we." Tears filled Lyra's eyes. "They're staying behind." Jace nodded. They knew this was a one-way trip. Cira pulled up the warp coordinates. Jump drive charged. "We can make it, if we go now." Jace gave the final order. "Engage." A blinding light filled the ship. Then darkness. And then, light again. But not like before. They had arrived. A small star. A blue-green planet below. Not Earth but something close. Very close. The scans were clear, air was breathable, gravity was perfect, soil rich with minerals. Oceans shimmered. Forests moved in the wind. But no cities. No machines. No war. It was untouched. The seed began to hum. Lyra's voice cracked slightly. "It recognizes the world. This place is ready." Jace felt something break loose inside him. The weight of generations. The pain of exile. The burden of being the last. "Then let's begin." They landed gently in a wide green field. The children were the first to run outside, laughing as wind hit their faces for the first time. Cira helped unload tools. Lyra walked into the forest and touched a tree. "This feels like home." Jace stood in the middle of it all, holding the seed in his arms. He dug a small hole. Placed it carefully in the soil. Then covered it with earth. The light from the seed spread through the ground, and the field around them began to change. Green vines grew. Flowers opened. The smell of fresh earth filled the air. And then something happened no one expected. The seed sent out a signal not just across space but across time. Back in the dark zone, as the Empire's ships approached the battlefield, they paused. Every screen on every warship flashed. Images appeared, blue oceans, mountain ranges, children smiling, forests growing. Memories of Earth. Even the Varnek's commanders hesitated. "This is," one whispered, "what they lost." Some ships turned around. Some simply stopped. The power of the seed was not in its weapons but in its truth. Meanwhile, on the new world, days passed. Then weeks. A village was built. Trees were planted. Farms were started. The warship became a station of learning and memory. A new generation began to grow, children who never knew war, only peace. Stories were told under the stars, about the old Earth, about the warship that refused to die, and about the survivors who refused to forget. Lyra became a teacher. Ciro became a healer. And Jace? He became the last captain of the old world and the first father of the new one. One night, he walked alone to the edge of a cliff and looked up at the stars. He wondered if the Empire would ever come again. Maybe they would. Maybe not. But now, it wouldn't matter. Earth wasn't a place anymore. It was a promise. And they had kept it?